we started this 2 years ago. We know the story. We obviously, contacted Hooray, and he made this happen. We just selected just one skill, social media marketing. I don't know why I keep on getting the same thing. Can we do something else? Can we do another skill? But I have always said we have to just do one thing. The important thing is all about learning one thing really well and actually making money. Let's not do another thing, right? Every other day somebody tells me, why don't we do this other skill? This is the team that made it happen, and that's Hooray on the right. Our people, our guide, etc., etc. I think this is what I wanted to really talk about. So what I wanted to stress, I think Hooray, this might be even new for you. We handpicked the same tool sets used by some of the top design agencies, anywhere in the world, right? Like a Hootsuite for posting, and Lumen5 for video, and Zapier for automation, and Canva, and etc. So these are the kind of tools that the top guys are using to deliver their service, right? For when a client reaches. So we are now training our refugees on these tools, so that the work that comes out of their work, their desk, is as professional as it would have come from any top design agency. So I think that's really important. This point was being missed out on one of the in the funding presentations. Somebody pointed out to me, you have to bring this out, right? So that's that. Then we also are training on we were training people on Google and Facebook, but now what we're doing is we are training to choose the right platform for the right impact for the right client, right? When we started, I don't know whether some of you will remember, we were telling our clients, look, if you give me what do you want to achieve, we will try to achieve it via Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Like, we were going all over the place. But today, for almost all our clients, we are just sticking to one channel. So for example, for the clients that we are working with in the B2B segment, president of company, or all these guys who are trying to sell to one business to another business, we are 100% working only on LinkedIn. We are not working on any other channel, right? For someone like the coffee person that we are working on, we are 100%, so obviously you don't go to LinkedIn and find out all the people, who drink coffee, right? Or who are interested in coffee. So that we are doing only with Facebook. So I think this is a very important distinction. Earlier, we were just teaching people, here is all these networks, and you need to be able to know everything. But now we are teaching what's the right platform you need to work on for your client based on who they are. So I think that's a very, very important differentiation we are able to do. And the third one, again, is the tools, the platform where you need to do the marketing or selling. But is there a step-by-step process? I think this has been established fairly early, but it's getting better and better. The 6-step process. And one more thing I found out, team, you guys can this thing. If we do not have a set or a prescribed process, we cannot scale the idea, across all sorts of people, right? I think I have used the word very carefully, individual capacity, because we are going to get people who with really top-notch skill, and we are also going to get average set of skills. So it's very important for us to have a process that everybody can follow, regardless of their individual capacity. So this is going to be extremely crucial. So I think so far all of you guys know all these stories. We have told this multiple times. Again, you probably know this, so I'll just skip through all these things. What I wanted to actually talk about is this, right? I think this is what is important. Why step up? I think again, please go through that. We all believe in it. That's why we are here right now. I think one of the most important learning, at least for me, is number 2, which is learning something and earning from it must be connected at the hip, right? This is the biggest learning, right? If let's say we bring in some 10 leaders or 500 leaders, refugees below them, if we cannot make them earn as quickly as they learn, then we will fail very fast. That's the biggest learning for me, actually, because everything else is important, but if you cannot connect the learning and earning immediately, if you do not have the team to find the job, do not onboard the refugees. It's as simple as that. Do not make them learn and train and just keep waiting for jobs. I think that will be a huge problem. So that's something that I wanted to quickly point out. Okay, so I think this one, I just wanted to spend a minute on it. Our vision is to create a self-sustainable engine at the Kakuma refugee camp, and then of course replicate it across every other thing. There's one point that I wanted to quickly point. The stuff that I've put over here is, what are the resources that we need in order to, do that? What activities we must do? What outcomes we expect and what impact we can create. So this is something very interesting, at least for me. I just want to focus on the impact. So I was having this discussion with a bunch of economists and other people from the from the World Bank and IFC. And what I noticed is, even though we only bring in, let's say, $6 million of revenue in Kakuma, by making 5,000 people, work, if that is our vision for Kakuma, the $6 million can get multiplied multiple times, in order to create nearly a $30 million economy, just within Kakuma. I thought that was really powerful, because there is a report called Kakuma as a Marketplace, which says that in the last how many ever years that Kakuma has existed, it has created a $56 million economy by itself, as a marketplace. And most of the $56 million is, not something that is created inside camp. It actually comes in the form of remittances or aid. So if we are able to pull this off, we will be creating an economy which is coming from outside, and the money is earned, not given as a form of aid or the thing. So that's a very important impact in the part of our vision. The second one is, while people are earning their livelihood, they're also, empowered with a voice that can come from the grassroots. So anybody who has mastered the stuff that we are trying to teach should be able to have an amplified voice through social media, right? If they can amplify it for their clients, I'm sure they can amplify it for themselves. Again, this is the same presentation we are putting in front of the likes of Microsoft Foundation. We did this exact same presentation to the Vodafone Foundation, just a few days ago. We are showing the same numbers. Our plan is to scale to the $6 million per year mark by the close of fiscal 2022, which is roughly 3 years from today, right? And how we want to scale, so from 10 refugees to 5,000 refugees, each of them earning at least $100 a month, resulting in $500,000 a month, which is roughly $6 million a year. And some maths behind that. What do we need? How many team leaders we need? How many refugees will work for these team leaders? How many people we need in the mentors? How many people we need in the sales? And how much earnings, burn rate, etc., etc. I'll share this with you guys. You'll know this. So this is our story. Our story and our vision. So I'll pause here. Any thoughts, questions? I can keep it on this slide, or before we go to the next phase, which is scaling.
One question, Anish, may not be related to this slide, but you said people are asking every day what other skills. So is there a survey or something we should do to find maybe there is a passion that could be nourished? that may provide a different kind of a scale to this objective, you know.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to, sort of, if I find something interesting, for example, people are recommending, video, like making, or, photography, or filmmaking. Then my point is, look, it is all covered in this itself, right? When you are trying to do digital marketing or social media marketing, you are expected to create, photos and videos and visual storytelling anyways, right? So it's important to have this, power of one and sort of fold them under. But if somebody came to me, and talk about, let's say, bread making, um, you know, see, what I try to do, Karthik, is, let me just, stop sharing. I'll just try to come back to all of you. So what I try to do is, um, I try to see if it is something digital or something physical. If it is digital, then I try to see if we can scale it, if I can bring it under the umbrella. If not, I try to, just on it for another time, because I just want to be very focused on just one thing, Karthik, as much as possible. That's one thing, right? Um, there has been others also, like, for example, Aisha is here. She's been doing the same kind of thing, right? 4, 5 things. So it just that I'm just you know want to just have one agenda and see if we can, be successful in one thing, because trying to sell just one idea to our clients, because at the end of the day, whatever skill is there, if there is going to be a paying client for it, I'm more than happy to, think about it, take it up. But otherwise, we are just going to be, diluting our things.
Yeah. So
Any other?
keeping the focus, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, my point is, if there is a passion that we could nourish, so that helps to achieve the
No,
objective.
no, that point I take it, right? For example, there's a real story in our own team. So Paul is an excellent, photographer and a video maker. While all the other people, okay, are making videos from Lumen. Lumen is, someone else's video, right? You just take someone else's video clips, and you just tell the story. So yesterday, one of our clients, she said, "Look, guys, I like the video. It's amazing. The story is amazing, but that person does not look like a refugee. Like the one lady who was there in that picture, and everything is looking very Western, right? I really want a video where we tell the story of Kakuma, right? So can you guys, have one of your people go around Kakuma, click pictures, right, or videos, and put that in my video, right? So she wanted the same Lumen 5 story, same Lumen 5 video, but she wanted with some real people and real pictures. So what we have done is, we have tag teamed with Paul. So Paul is shooting these videos and giving it to Bahana to put it, in Lumen 5, and, giving. So we are nourishing some of these passions, video and photography and those kind of things. But if it is way outside our thing, we are, putting it on hold. Hope that answers.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions? Yeah,
Yeah.
go
So
ahead.
mine, I think, would be, what is our gender lens, for instance? Are we looking at keeping it 50-50 male and female? Because yeah, I think it's very crucial to look at that.
Yeah, is it Aisha?
Yes.
Okay, yes, it's Aisha. So it's a very important thing for us, Aisha. I think, Hooray will be able to comment on this, but it is our thing that we, aspire to keep the, the not just, the gender, but also, there are more than 16 nationalities inside Kakuma. So we want to make sure that, we are able to give a varied set of opportunities to everybody, right? Definitely, that'll be something that we are very closely looking at when we select these people.
Yes, and then maybe lastly, is there a specific age range we're looking at?
Honestly, anybody, I mean, above 18 is a good idea, because some age, right? People should be studying, before that. So we are not really looking at any particular, once they have completed whatever education that they are, Hure is the head of education, for Kakuma. So, obviously he's not going to put somebody, so somebody has to complete. Hure, you want to add to this?
Yeah, no, thank you, Anis. Yeah, I think what Aisha mentioned on the gender is very, very important. A lot of our programs, educational programs, the participation of female and women is generally lower, and so I think there is, of course, the real risk that that reality will also reflect in this initiative. So, but again, we have to be deliberate about it and take the necessary steps in the initial design of the program and also in implementation to see what can be done to increase female participation in the trainings and also in the earnings that will come here. So there are things and of course we can learn lessons from experiences from other projects and see what can be done. For the age range, yes, this is also again a lot of our refugees, even for those in primary and secondary schools are over age. They already come to Kakuma when they are aged advanced with little or no educational experiences. So a lot of them, tend to be already outside the recommended, age ranges within the ministry, within the Kenyan education system. Yeah, so above 18 or someone who has already completed, high school, that could be, a definitive target. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Hure. Any more questions? Okay, I'll try to be really fast on this because I really want to spend more time on getting some ideas from you guys rather than just giving a status. This is something that you can easily read. There was a challenge by one of the when we pitched the idea to a foundation. They challenged us. Tell us exactly how you plan to scale, right? And tell us exactly how you want us to help. Right, I think that's the that's always going to be the thing, right? So myself and Taylor, we got together and we said, look, let's split everything that we're doing, right? So we came up with these 4 tracks, So at the track where we onboard the refugee into our let's say the graduate program that we are creating, then the actual training, then finding jobs, and then also executing jobs. That's something we should not forget, right? So onboarding, training, finding, and executing, right? And then we split that also into further steps, right? So what is onboarding? So onboarding is identifying the people. I think that is where your gender and all other things comes into picture. Assessing where they stand. Again, we want to do this using a software program so that no bias is there. We want to assess not to because we want to take only the best ones. It's to basically understand where people stand so that we can figure out how this program is either helping them or not helping them. The third one is all the digital infrastructure, which is laptop, mobile phones, charging, Wi-Fi, internet, and the fourth is the physical infrastructure, space, time, traveling to the space, etc., etc. So these are the 4 key steps that we need to scale if we have to step up to the next level, right? And our current target is to scale it to 500 refugees, right? So everything that you see here, step 1, 2, 3, 4, you have to put the number 500. How do we identify the next 500 graduates? How do we assess them? how do we get 500 laptops and phones and mobiles and Wi-Fi, and how do we make 500 people actually work in a space, so you just imagine that at the back of your mind, as I go through this. So that's onboarding. Training, in my opinion, is not as difficult as onboarding, because everything is going to be 100% digital. But we'll also have the train the trainer approach that I just spoke about in the beginning. So here again, it's really simple. Step 5 is the basics of social media marketing and selling. Step 6 is the tools that people will use. Step 7 is the platforms on which they will be using the tools, and 8 is the framework itself. So this will be 100% digital, and will be the trained trainers will be able to train the 500 people. So we are starting with 10 leaders. Hooray, the UNHCR head of education is here on this call, and he's picked up those 10 people already, and we're going to start our training with those the next 10 people. And these leaders will have 50 below each, and they will use the tools that I've listed in 5, 6, 7, and 8 to train their own people. That's the way I see it work. I'm pretty sure this can scale, but again, without the infrastructure on 1, 2, 3, 4, even this would be very, very tricky. The most difficult thing is the finding jobs track, in my opinion. Maybe it will turn out to be the most easy thing as we scale, but today it is the most difficult thing, right? And our idea to find jobs for these 500 people that we will train and keep them ready is to go country by country by country. So we want to create a UK-based country team, a US-based country team, a Philippines-based country team, a South Africa-based country team, and we want to enable each country team to be able to sell in their own country. What do they sell? Sell the idea of hiring a refugee as a social media manager, right? As their LinkedIn manager, as their Twitter manager, whatever you want to call it, right? And we also want to give a prescriptive approach, a step-by-step sales process to all these country teams, so that they also know exactly what to do with it, right? And we will automate the hell out of this process, right? And I'll explain that maybe in another time. But each of the country teams should be able to reach out to the top leaders in their own country and be able to get the jobs for their for the refugee teams in Kakuma in a fairly straightforward way, without these volunteers and without these sales teams spending extraordinary amount of time, right? We want to automate pretty much 90% of their job. The only place where they really need to make the effort is when the client starts responding to your request. You should be able to respond back to the client with answers and be able to close the whole process with a sign-off and a first meeting handover to the refugee. So that is 9, 10, 11, and 12. Today for me, this seems to be the most daunting thing, but we have already got more than 6 or 7 country sales teams in this thing, and we have to start training these, country sales teams, with the process. I think this should be the biggest work for us as a team right now, the team that is currently there, how to do this, in each country. And steps 13, 14, 15, and 16, honestly, I initially thought we should do this through the process of mentors, like people like you and me, but I've almost given up that idea now. Please, challenge me if you think otherwise. I'm thinking the hand-holding of the refugees while they actually execute the job for a particular client has to be done inside the camp, right? So the idea of creating refugee leaders and then they leading teams of 50 is specifically for them to handhold their teams while they are executing. I think this is also going to be a very important thing if we have to sustain this, right? The good news is most of our clients who have come to us have been able to, our longest serving client is more than 14 months now. For 14 months he's been with us without, there are at least 4 of them have canceled our subscription after 6 months. 4 clients, right? But but pretty much everybody who signed up in the last 6 months is with us. We have 4 refugees and we have more than 8 jobs. So which is really good, right? Almost 2 per refugee, right? But we need to sort of scale it. So that is executing the job itself. So this is what I wanted to really talk to you about. I have created for each track, let's say, how do you scale from 5 to 100, which has to be obviously the first step. What do you need for onboarding? I created this 100 because I wanted to send this out to Vodafone Foundation, because they asked me a very straightforward question: what do you need from me, right? So literally, we just have to say, look, I want you to help us with the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that is needed to start our phase 1. Just now, we need 100 laptops. 100 people able to charge their laptops and mobile phones and internet connection, etc., etc. So I've tried to sort of say what exactly we need. For example, I've said activities, refugee selection will be done by UNHCR, assessment will be done by Pymetrics, space will be provided possibly by UNHCR. We need to talk about it. Laptops, Wi-Fi, internet and charging possibly by Vodafone, right? So this is how I have thought through each of these steps. What do you need in onboarding? What do you need in training? What do you need for finding jobs? And what do you need for executing jobs, right? And where are all the current teams that we need to form, and how they are forming up right now, right? So these are the existing teams that we currently have, and we need to obviously train them. I'll sort of pause here, right? I think pretty much that's all I wanted to cover today in terms of how we want to scale. Any questions? Otherwise I can keep talking, but I really want to take your inputs, because it's important that we come on the same page around the scaling, because this is our second biggest milestone. I'll pause here.
And this scaling also means that you need the client from various countries, right? So not only the Western countries where people can afford $100 to $300. So the pricing would be critical, right? So is there a plan to basically do different type of pricing for different countries or something like that? Because I think it will be too expensive if you are getting, say, customer in India or somewhere else.
Yeah. See, Vivek, so first of all, right, I'm thinking, please tell me whether I should have this even. I'm thinking, to get rid of the $200 and $300. Everybody who's ever been a client so far has always picked up the $100 category. Obviously, that's the cheapest one, people just pick it up. Number one. Number two, we have, clients right now from Kenya, Vivek, right, who initially we're thinking around $100, but they are now willing to pay $400 for the same person. But I don't want to get over there, right? I want to just keep everything to 100, always 100, whichever country that you come from. It might seem expensive, Vivek, but honestly, it's not. In fact, I have got tremendous criticism, because this is the biggest pain in the neck for me. I've got tremendous criticism by people saying that why 100? If the same work has to be done by even a freelancer in in any other country, right? Any country, any Western, Eastern, any country, right? It would be in a lot more. But then I have to explain to them, look, it's not working like that. This is not $100 per month for some kind of a full-time activity. Our Step Up on graduates spend an hour or two a day in the beginning, right? And then it gets better and better and easier for them, So it's not like they work 8 hours a day for, so $100 is, is pretty much fixed, Vivek. And I'm not sure reducing is a possibility, Vivek, even for countries like India, Philippines, Africa, it is not a massive total. Yes, Hooray, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, thank you, Anis. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, we also need to recognize that there is limitation to what a refugee can also earn. There are some legal, constraints to, so, I mean, on average now, a teacher makes, $70 a month. So, and $100 is actually quite a few refugees who make that. So we have to be also ensure that we are consistent with the applicable, laws, and not, violate them, because that can also bring, challenges. And of course, there is a lot of policy dialogue and discussions going on to allow refugees, to earn beyond what they now call the incentive wage. So, but hopefully, if that happens, then there is really a possibility to be more flexible and to compensate someone based on the work that they are doing, and not just Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ray. Hey, Dara, you want to say something?
Yeah, this is something I actually mentioned the other day when we spoke about the going through the report of Kakuma as a marketplace, whereby they mentioned the main reason why Kakuma refugee camp is actually more they receive more aid is because of the laws that have been put in place, the encampment policy that has been put in place, whereby they have a regulation where refugees are only required to earn around $100 and below. Yeah, just this is just to mention what Mr. Hura has just said.
Yeah, thanks, Dara. No, I think honestly speaking, I never read any of these rules and laws. I just came up with a number that made sense to me, especially if a full-time teacher who's working for nearly 40 hours a week is earning $70 a month, then it is only fair for somebody to earn. And also, look, if you go to Fiverr.com or Upwork.com, and if you hire a person from Bangladesh or India, there is a possibility of $5 per hour, right? And what are we saying? We are saying per hour for 20 days in a month. So it is not in any way less. Yes, we want to give the possibility to make more. Like, for example, if somebody wants to do LinkedIn, and he also wants to be so he wants to use LinkedIn for his business, he wants to use Twitter for his thought leadership, then we can start charging $100 per channel, something like that, right? We have to have a mechanism to increase the thing, but $100 would remain the same. Vivek, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think Anis, yeah, so there are two things probably. I think there's no need for 200 and 300 in that case, so we can keep it pretty simple, say 99.99 or whatever,
Exactly.
100. But I think we should then say that if it is an organization, if an SME, small and medium size, so there could be a differential pricing. So if, for example, say Mahadev's IHA, they want to promote the brand, not the individual. So that kind of company, they will pay tens of thousands if you are going to any agency, right?
Yes.
So that's a scaling thing. So if we can get
honestly, in fact, Vivek, Vivek, that's exactly how I have put the pricing today. If you go and visit the pricing right now, what I've said is for individuals, it is $100. For businesses, like small and medium businesses, like what you mentioned, IHA, is $300. But what I'm beginning to notice is even the businesses which are trying to hire, right? They simply select the individual price and just hire us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the way I want to do that is, look, as long as you want us to deliver impact on one channel, let's say only LinkedIn, I think 100 is good. So I want to link the channels. If you want to do LinkedIn, and then our work also becomes double, right? So that's how I'm thinking currently. But anyway, that's something, and again, like Hure said, is very important. Hure and Daira, we need to probably have another legal kind of a call to figure out how do we do this, $100 problem. There is a legal issue in terms of how much you can actually, pay a refugee, right? A registered refugee in Kakuma, there is an issue. So we need to, actually talk about that from a legal perspective as well. We also need to talk about Hure, about possibly setting up a company in Kenya or in Kakuma, and then have all of these people formally contracted. Whoever is joining us as a graduate, has to formally join the company, etc., because what we did with 5 people is okay, but if you are trying to do that at 50 and 500, we really need to have a formal organization, and that's what was a recommendation from the World Bank also. When I had spoken to them.
And what is the vehicle you're going to use, Anis? Is it a charity or is it going to be a not for profit? Because they're two different things.
Yeah. See, my preference is charity. 100% preference is charity. I've got some advice from the World Bank, that it is a nightmare to create a charity, in Kenya. What we want to do is probably create a non-profit in Kenya, but in UK, preferably a charity. And somehow we need to link all these things up. Okay, so that's the thing. Any other thoughts, ideas about the scaling part? Daira, do you want to say something? I see your hand raised, or it's just that you didn't put your hand down. Okay, just quickly, I want to.
So scaling, Anis, is there any other kind of traction, say, for example, Bangladesh, because you have all this Myanmar problem also happening, and there are millions of people getting displaced.
No, I think no. I think that's a point. It's a very important point. I have not actually discussed this openly yet, but Vivek, we have already started at the Rohingya refugee camp. 4 weeks ago, and we have started. We have identified. In fact, it is right on top. Just like Hure, we have now identified somebody in the Rohingya refugee camp, and he has identified, the first 10 leaders, and we did a training with them 2 weeks ago, and we are meeting them next week. I want to be very, very careful that we do justice to what we started, right? So I have set the expectations correctly, because this work that I'm doing with it's formally called the Kutu Palang refugee camp. It's not called the Rohingya camp. Just because all the people are Rohingyas. That's the name everybody knows. So they are extremely hungry, and they just asked me if I can train them on creating videos and spreading their message, because I told them, look, it's very important for me to focus on one camp and get that camp into a self-sustaining motion before we can help. But they were very insistent that we teach them how to do it, their own job, right? They're trying to raise awareness, etc. So we have started that, but I want to be really careful. All our discussions, Vivek, is going to be about Kakuma. The entire thing that I'm showing you right now, this is our scaling plan and structure, but everything is about Kakuma.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so what we have done here, I think most of you should have access to this. It's a very simple task management software. Here is all the things that we talked about onboarding, and where these are the various things that needs to happen. So for example, Alisa, so obviously, the Kakuma leader for onboarding is Hore, and the Kutupalong leader is Farouk. So here if you see for Kakuma, it's basically onboard, assess, and train 10 refugee leaders. Can you guys see my screen? Just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So if you see this, this work is assigned to, Muhammad, but this is Hore actually. So he's responsible for, getting these refugee leader, so create the WhatsApp group. He has already done it. Organize a meeting. We are done it. Start the training, complete the assessment. So these are the various steps that we need to do, to get this thing started, right? So I'm just, please start using these things, because it's the best way to, start putting the things that you are currently doing. So in onboarding, we know that we have to, onboard people. We have to select an assessment tool. So Alisa said, she will do some research to find out, what is the right assessment tool that we can, use.
Yes.
By coming up with a list of assessment tools, English, right? So, again, I'm open to questions. We are thinking that, the only skill that we need is whether people can speak English, not amazing English or anything, just, good enough to, get through. But they need to write some good English, decent English. Some level of, IQ assessment and EQ assessment. Again, these are not to judge anybody, right? This is simply to know where they stand, so that, we know when months later, we know where they've gone to, right?
Yes.
I have, from whatever I have seen, Pymetrics seems to be a phenomenal tool, tool. But I would like to, understand more, and also, also the some kind of a mental assessment. A lot of this is very hard skills, but also some kind of a, like, how strong they are mentally, could also be another assessment, Alisa. I don't know, do you have any points to make about this, or anyone has any point about this assessment?
So Anis, yeah, may not be fully related to the assessment, but the another angle, right? So the motivation within the Kakuma, right? Because some of this work is going to be demanding. They would need to invest the time without probably knowing the outcome, right? So how much the team there
So, yeah,
is excited, motivated, right?
yeah.
What should we do to keep that?
Yeah. So Karthik, what I've realized, is not rocket science to realize is the only thing that motivates is money. Nothing motivates better than money and, livelihood, right? Dignity and hope comes out of, livelihood. So see, one way I've seen that motivation, really strong is this leadership structure, Karthik. Okay, one is obviously money. If you don't get anybody money for any long period of time, they're going to be demotivated and gone. Okay, it's very simple. But even with money, we need, constancy. I would not call it motivation, but constancy, of delivery. How do you consistently deliver results to your clients, right? What I've noticed is when I have a team, let's say, for example, what I've done is I have teamed up, Bahana with a few other people. Okay. And I've said, Bahana, you are going to take ultimate responsibility for the client. Okay. And he's doing now more than 4 clients. Okay. So what has happened, he's able to use the people below him correctly, and is able to take ultimate responsibility, communication, client communication. It's not very strange to us, Karthik. We know this world, really well, right? But you're absolutely right. Money is the ultimate motivator. If you don't have money, you're going to lose everybody, right? Simple. But even with money, if you want consistent delivery, you have to create a team structure with a leader, with absolute bottom line. So that's the answer to your question, Karthik.
Yeah. So that's where I was coming from, right? So somebody with a high motivation, they will learn everything that you need. I think that should be the first one. If somebody is really excited, then whether it's writing English or speaking to somebody, starting out work, they will figure that.
You are absolutely right. I think, we are starting with 10 leaders for the next set of things. Just because you're a leader doesn't mean that, you're going to be motivated, right? Hooray, I think, we spoke about this. It is a few people emerge and a few people drop out. It is how life is. And the few people that we thought, are never going to be leaders, emerge as leaders. So, I want to give this unfair advantage to everybody, right? Let time determine the leaders, and let us just be the facilitators of who really is the leader, right? And these leaders emerge, Karthik, from everywhere. So that's for Alisa. The physical infrastructure again, is the main thing, and I think I will not dwell on it. We currently have a good infrastructure. So Bahana has his own facility now, laptops, etc. I think Hooray and Bahana has been working together on a number of initiatives. We need to see how we can expand that physical space. This is also very important. Commitment of time and commitment to travel. For example, for Paul to go and work with Bahana, it's $1 a day, just in travel cost. So if he travels, $20 is gone. So we have to figure out, how to do this, and this obviously, in my opinion, this needs to be done by Hooray. I'll just put his name here, and we will see how we can assist him. This is the physical infrastructure. In terms of digital infrastructure, I've already said, we are asking Vodafone and we are asking Microsoft, how they can help us. Again, this will be driven through, funding and partnerships channel. I have not put a team behind this. Similarly, for training, these are the modules that we need. Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, Module 4. These are the 4 modules we need to digitally recreate for our training. And we need to do a bunch of steps over there. Similarly, for finding jobs, I've said, we have formed these country teams already. Each country team will find jobs for the refugees in their own respective countries. There is a UK team already done, US team, Australia, Philippines, South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, India. We need to keep adding, more teams. I think, I'll just add Jordan. I'm seeing, Salah in the call, so we put, and then keep adding these teams in order to, find jobs in each thing. And within each country, say for example, Simran is going to be leading the India team. So if I open the India team, what they will do, this is what they will do, right? First, they will, spread the word by emailing everyone in their contacts. That is spreading the word. Step 1. Step 2, get a list of all potential clients from LinkedIn. That is a circle 2. Craft the message, reach out to all the clients, check every day, write a more detailed message about Step Up, and include a detailed video. Repeat the process until every single one of them are connected and closed one way or the other. Take them to the email channel, mark them as lost or signed up, and then set up the first meeting. So a 10-step process for each of the country teams, with nearly step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fully automated, right? So that Simran doesn't, otherwise this is more than a full-time work for anybody, right? But say if Simran is able to do at least 1 hour a week, that should be enough to do these 10 steps. So I have done the same thing for, let's say, Alisa. Alisa will do the same thing for Philippines, and she will do these 10 steps. And as she keep doing this, she'll just keep crossing out each one that she has done. Same for US. US, Lindsay has agreed to do this. UK, one of us will do this. Australia, Taylor is going to do this. South Africa, Toots is going to do this. Kenya, maybe it's Daira. In Uganda, it'll be Aisha and Vincent. So that's what we have sort of listed out here. And similarly, we've also got to go after funding and partnerships. So right now we have done Microsoft Foundation, we have done Vodafone Foundation. We want to go after Rockefeller Foundation, the KKCF Kakuma Challenge Fund by World Bank. We are going to go for it. The X Prize one, we are going to go for it. So we want to have a separate team, continuously pitching it to all the foundations and challenges, and we need to identify a leader, who can do this and lead this particular thing. Right now, Taylor seems to be very, very interested in doing it. So Taylor was there with me when we pitched with Vodafone. So we're gonna need people to run this track. And finally, this one, the legal structure is also going to be very important. How do we incorporate in Kenya? What do we incorporate in the UK? Do we do as charity or non-profit, right? And so on and so forth, right? That is legal structure. And finally, media outreach. We reached out to New York Times. We have reached out to all media outlets in Australia so far. Yesterday, we had an interview, myself and Daira. We did an interview with Elizabeth, who's going to write an article. So, we want to identify a media leader who will reach out to every media outlet that is out there. Maybe again, country by country or whatever, right? We can try to link this along with finding jobs. So this is our portal for assigning jobs, assigning tasks, and so for example, if Hooray wants to know what his jobs are, he can come and click here and just his name, and it will just show the things that he needs to be he's responsible for. If Taylor wants to know what she's responsible for, then she knows exactly what she has to do. And if Dairo wants to know what she's responsible for, that's it. So it's like a simple, straightforward way to figure out who's responsible for what. I think we have run out of time. I'll just pause here quickly. I will stop sharing my screen, and I just want to quickly take your opinion, and we can close the call. I don't want to keep running over time every time we meet. Any questions, concerns, thoughts on the scale up?
Sanis, what is not clear, what you need from this team really? So we talked about a lot of things, but what do you need from us?
So what I need from this team, Bibek, is fundamentally that's what I try to put up, right? This is the set of tasks that we need to execute, Bibek. There are two ways to do this. So for example, Alisa volunteered that she's going to do the assessment tool, and she's going to also do the Philippines, reach out to all their things. So we need to figure out a mechanism by which because it's really hard for me to say, look, you have to do this or you have to do that, which I can do. It's not a problem. We know each other very well, but it will be useful. Like all of these things, we need somebody to do it. Each one of these activities, right? So either we can pick it up like that, or we can have so for example, you can do the reach out to all the media in the UK. Maybe I'm just giving an example. Salah can do the same thing in Middle East. He can be the media leader in Middle East as well as the client finding jobs. But fundamentally, what I'm looking at, Bibek, is all of us in this team, right? I want all of us to be focused on just this one track, Bibek, finding jobs. Right?
Yeah, that was I was thinking as well. I think some of the things. So like say we say $100, but is there a way we can say that in 6 month time, if you are say a dentist, we will amplify you and then do this some outcome, or if you are as an IT guy, then we'll make you a leader in whatever, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Or if you are somebody, and in 12 month time you will reach there, or something, or that kind of a thing. Probably we need apart from that $100.
Yes, 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 yes. No, absolutely. In fact, Vivek, one of the huge realization for us is we are now moving from social media marketing to social media selling actually. For the last two clients we signed up, we are talking about
exactly.
we are talking about I don't want to take names of our client, but this is a president of a $100 million plus company. We basically are connecting on his behalf to more than 500 CXOs that he wants to sell his product to, right? And we have done around it's just been less than 2 months, right? Since we started with this client, we have actually connected with around 300 of those 500, and more than 20 to 30 conversations have started. So I asked this client just a few days back, how are we doing, and do you need any help for us to do the second level conversation? So far, what we're doing is just the first level conversation. We are finding who this president needs to connect to. We are sending him that initial connection message, and then we don't do anything after that. Okay. But this guy, he said, look, Anis, it is too dangerous for your team to do the second level. Leave that to me. Your guys are doing a phenomenal job. I'm getting huge number of connections already. Already everybody is connecting with me back and asking me to tell more. I will do the telling more part.
Yeah.
Okay. So and the good news is we have visibility to that. So for example, I have access to his account, or one of our refugee graduates has access to his account. So we can go and look at every single response that has come out. So we really know we sent 300 300 requests, for connection. More than 100 has connected back. More than 50 are having second level conversation. So we have this actual number for somebody who we have started just 2 months ago. And 2 days ago, Vivek, this president of the company, he introduced us to his chief operating officer, and he said, these guys are doing a phenomenal job. I want you to take my chief operating officer also as your client, right? And he said for him, just do Germany and UK, right? So we can, what all these things, Vivek, like for example, if you become the face of UK, let's say, Vivek, you will get these videos, like what is our client saying, what will you get, so the country leaders in each of the country, before they can start, sending out emails, etc., they will have all the, like, why should you hire us? Listen from our other clients, right? All those things will be there, so that we give them one guy can talk about Twitter. For example, one of our clients is is grown from 0 to 500 Twitter followers. Another client has grown from 5,000 connections on LinkedIn to nearly 10,000 connections over a 12-month period. So we've added 5,000 more connections on LinkedIn, for this client. So there is very many stories we can tell, and all those stories can be recorded. So this another client, right? I don't know, I can't say any of these people's name. She's a Nobel Peace Prize nominee 3 times. She just wrote an email that how you guys are doing these videos, right? It is just incredible that you sit in a place with no power, electricity, laptop, and you have created a video that is better than many of the design agencies that I have worked with. And she had actually not only written that email, she sent a check for an additional $100 for that particular month. Because so we can get all these people to talk in some kind of a video format, and use it for finding jobs. So coming back to the answer, finding jobs is the single biggest place where we need the thing, and that's why I'm dividing the team into country by country by country, and giving them the ammunition to just reach out in that country itself.
Yeah, makes sense. So I think home page also, I think, so when we do the pricing, I think below that or above that, if we can put some persona, because people may not be able to relate to what it is in for them, right? So if it is a doctor, then there is a different person and different kind of thing will probably put, and then as opposed to somebody in and say some other business or even in IT or some
No,
public relationship and stuff. So
no. We
so
need to.
maybe there is a discussion we need to have about what kind of different personas we are going after.
Yes, yes, yes. No, no. You know, it's very interesting you asked that question. You know, this is exactly why we created this. So we are going after these kind of clients. Mainly, we are going after individuals, right? Individuals within corporates, regional heads, sales managers, account managers, SMEs, small and medium enterprises, owners and partners, right? Professionals, dentists, architects, professors, scientists, journalists, and so on and so forth. And then charities and universities, vice chancellors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And each of them have a different thing. One guy that we spoke to, one of the potential clients, he said, "Look, Anis, I'm not keen to, do sales using, Twitter. I want to be known as a thought leader."
Yeah.
Okay, in this space, when somebody search for the hashtag, charismatic leadership traits or something like that, or hashtag, something, that he's a professor about, right? He said, "I need to be the number one guy on Twitter. Can you make that happen?" So yes, you're absolutely right. And then one dentist. Do you want to be known amongst all the dentists in the UK as the top orthodontic surgeon, or you want to bring more patients to your dental, surgery, right? These are two completely different things, right? And we can do both. We can make you, of course, you need to do your research and orthodontic surgery if you want to be a thought leader. We can't sit, and cook some stories, if you do all these things, okay. We are doing it, for example, I don't want to again name names. For a leader within the World Bank, we are trying to, bring her work out by creating videos of all the works that she has already done, right? And then by publishing those, converting all the PDF documents into videos, basically, because nobody reads all these long PDF documents anyways, right? But because we work for this World Bank and you keep creating long stories. So very different. Not everything is about just selling and getting clients and making money. It could be about thought leadership. It could be about just letting people know that you exist, and you do some great work. You're right. So for each persona, we can't do it for every persona, but we can select. Look, you could be a professional, an architect or a dentist or a professor, and here is what we can do for a professional like you. You could be a corporate, sales guy or whatever, right? Here is what we can do for you. You could be the owner of a small coffee enterprise, $10 million is your thing. What can we do for you? You could be a charity. In fact, Vivek, the interesting thing I came across is most of the charities in the UK, they have good amount of money, but they don't know how to do this social media marketing. That's really surprising actually. And even for a charity in the UK, right, Vivek, it's not very difficult for them to spend $100 a month. Not at all difficult. $100 a month, like nothing. So yeah.
Anis, just a thought on that. In terms of the ethical, social angle, right? So I wouldn't want to promote Donald Trump as the greatest president ever, right? So we may not want to promote everybody. So there should be some sort of a selection to say, yes, this person we would support full-heartedly. I think that also for the people who are doing the job, they would have that motivation because they really like that person as against a job.
Very, very valid point, Karthik. Yes, something that we need to keep as a part of our selection process. Just like Aisha was telling, when we select our refugees, we need to make sure that gender bias, country bias, and so many other bias doesn't kick in. Similarly, when we select our clients, we have to make sure that we are not supporting crooks and criminals and problematic people, right? So yes, it is important. Yes, very important. We need to have that check and balances. Good point. Any last questions? I think we have overrun the thing. There are the most pressing need right now of the hour is we need to legally start incorporating in Kenya and incorporating in UK as a minimum thing. We are exploring to incorporate in Australia and US also, but Kenya and UK is the number one thing. If anybody has any thoughts and ideas on how we can do that, please pitch. Otherwise, we will try and have this call maybe every fortnight, every 2 weeks. And the only way to run this call is through the through this task, because we don't want to be coming every 2 weeks and just having some status updates. I think we can have that on WhatsApp, but if there is a task and if that needs to be completed, Alyssa is supposed to do assessment tool and Hooray is supposed to do onboarding, and Taylor is supposed to reach out to all the media. So if we can figure out where we fit in, please feel free to assign your name against any of the tasks. If the task is not here, then please feel free to create it and assign your name. There's nothing wrong in it, and we will try to run with this. I know it sounds like a bad idea, as in task driven thing, but it's best we if you have to make progress, you have to complete these things, right? So it's best to do this way rather than just coming and updating everybody. So that's pretty much it, guys. From my side is if there